Right, B-day's out, hurrah! And I've also cut down the pipes that was left for the bath, and so everything's capped off temporarily, so we can turn the water back on. It is now back on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the radiator off. Now, two ways of doing that is first of all to completely drain the system. Get all the water out and then take the radiator off, no problem. Or the method I'm going to use, which is just to leave the water in the system and just drain the water out of this radiator, which is a bit messy. I know I'm going to leak water everywhere, and you can only do it if you've got a carpet or something, you can't really do it. But because I'm redoing the whole thing, it shouldn't be bad. So what I'm going to do is I've turned off both radiator valves fully off. So then I'm going to loosen the connections where they go into the radiator, so then the water will drain out of the radiator, hopefully into these two receptacles, most of it anyway. But the water in the rest of the central heating system is fine because they've turned the taps off, so they'll just sit there. And then when all the water is drained out of the radiator, I can just lift it off the wall. That's the plan, and hopefully I'll be able to catch most of the water in the radiator. We'll see, most from the radiator in those bowls. We'll see. Okay, that worked pretty okay. So yeah, I've just disconnected the pipes at both ends, and then I also undid the breathe valve so that air could come in to let the water out. And it's just about done now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to then lift the radiator off the wall. It literally just lifts off the brackets and put it down on the floor, and then I'll get it ready for taking out of the house. And there's a really good tip I'll tell you in a minute about how to get it out of the house without creating too much of a mess. When I lift it off the wall, the first thing I'll do will be to tip it slightly into one of these, probably into this bowl, because there's always water in the left in the bottom even after it's drained. So always be ready for that bit of water to slosh about when you take the radiator off the wall. So I'll lift it off as straight as I can and then just try and tip it a bit and get rid of the worst of the water that's still in there into one of these bowls before putting it on the floor. Right, now I've lifted it off the wall and just tipped the remnants of the radiator into this bowl. As you can see, unlike the water that drained out, this is horrible, horrible black stuff, because it's all been sitting in the very bottom of the radiator, the sediment. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this ready to take outside. It's too heavy, I'll get someone to give me a hand. But here's a tip. Obviously, there's all this black stuff, this black goo, and it's still, some of it's still in the radiator. You carry that and you tip it accidentally, you're going to have that black stuff over your carpets or whatever. It's never going to come out. So what I do is tighten up the bleed valve, make sure that's nice and tight, then turn the radiator upside down and then carry it out. Okay, and put a bit of tissue or whatever in the end of each outlet, and that way, because the radiator's upside down, stuff can't come out. Simple thing like that, but it can make all the difference, because I've seen people do, oh, radiator's done, carry it out of the house, that black goo all over the carpets, hundreds of pounds worth of damage done, or at least a huge clear up job. So make sure that the bleed valve is nice and tight, turn the radiator upside down and then carry a radiator out, which is what I will turn it upside down, so I can find somebody to give me a hand to get it outside. Okay, radiator all out, brilliant. And so these valves are turned off, so the central heating is still on, but just not coming through this radiator, obviously. Just one thing to mention, that at this end, this is a thermostatic valve, and because it's thermostatic, it's not a definite fully off. It works on temperature, and I did have one once that it decided that even though it was fully off, it decided it was obviously too cold, that it was going to open. And so suddenly I came in and it was actually spurting water out of the valve even though it was shut. Because it's thermostatic, you can't physically turn it fully off. It works on temperature. So I rigged up this years ago just a little bit of pipe with a stop valve on it, and I screw that on there, and so that if this does decide to leak, it's not going to go anywhere. Obviously that end is a proper, physical shut-off valve, so that's never going to leak, as long as obviously you've turned it off fully. And that'll stay there for a while whilst I carry on other jobs. Obviously eventually that'll all come out, but for now that can stay there. The radiator's out of the way, and I can carry on. The next job is to get rid of the shower, basically. But glad anyway, the radiator's out of the way and the bidet, so we're getting there bit by bit.